Photographers in those days were only men. I spent 1 year in England, and then they shipped me over, they shipped my company, the Army Pictorial Service, they ship us all over to a place called Wiesbaden. And from there, I went to Nuremberg. I never heard of Nuremberg before, but I went to Nuremberg. We got to Nuremberg. There were about 14 of us, 13 or 14 of us, still men with the camera, and movie men, and the drivers and the jeeps and all that stuff. We brought all our equipment with us. We were there because we didn't have points to go home.
You didn't want to be there.
But some of the fellas, as soon as they got points, they didn't care about the trial or anything. They wanted to go home, and they went. So I was so interested in the trial, and Tony too, that we stayed the whole time at the trial. I stayed there, and I finished the other 12 trials under Telford Taylor. Charles Alexander was my boss, but he was a civilian. Now, I'll have to explain this to you. The Army, my group, at the early days, was on the second floor, and we had a dark room, and we had a little room for ourselves. We took pictures for the Army. Charles Alexander was a civilian. He was on the third floor. He worked for the public relations.
Out through those lenses, and you saw some extraordinary things. For example, you see Rudolf Hess.
Yeah.
You take a color photograph of Rudolf Hess.
Yes.
What do you think?
Well, I was always interested in Rudolf Hess because he went to England and he never came back. He was he instead of talking to any of the boys over there, he wanted to talk to one of his friends.
You see Hermann Goering. What do you think of Hermann?
Oh, he was a big fat man. He was heavy.
Give us your impression of Robert H. Jackson.
My impression is he was a very, 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 very fine man. I saw him at Nuremberg the first week before the trial started. That's when I met him, but he never would laugh. He was always serious. One incident I had with Jackson, he was the secretary. She called me down to his office. They wanted a photographer, and he was going to have his birthday party. I think it was his birthday party anyway. And she combed his hair. She had a comb. I took a picture of Jackson with her combing his hair. It was a candid shot, a real candid shot. And I took it, and about 3 hours later, she wanted to see the picture, and they took it from me. He said, because I was under him. So she took the picture, the prints, the negative, and destroyed everything. That's the only time. That's the only time anybody didn't want a picture taken.
Right.
But I took other pictures of him. He was always a very good soul. My best picture of him is when he signed his name under my picture. Yeah, which you have. Now, in Nuremberg, at the trial, the British judge, he was Lord Godfrey Lawrence, was the president. He spoke all the time. The American was Biddle. The Russians sat there quiet. The French were at the other end, quiet. So, as far as I'm concerned, the trial was maybe between the English and the Americans. No, I took it. Those were the only souvenirs I had of the city. Now, can you imagine going into Nuremberg and 90% of it is flat? When I got to Nuremberg, the streets were clean. clean of people. There were no people in Germany, in Nuremberg, because they always went out into the country. After the raids, nobody lived there. I've never seen a city so damaged, and I wanted to have something to show my folks. That's why I took the picture. I didn't know what a book was then, God. But after a few years, in fact, about 24 years ago, after I came back, I said, wouldn't it be good if I took some pictures in the same spot? And that's what I did. And I had a publisher there. And then we had, it is now the 7th printing of the book. It is still selling today. A fellow who sold washing machines and refrigerators, appliances, had in part of his store was a camera shop. He was a friend of mine. The war was over. He would get a certain amount of film, and he ordered some 4x5 Kodachrome, which my mother, he sold to my mother. My mother sent it to me, and I took it, and then we had to develop it in England.
And when you got it back from England,
yeah,
was that well? How did you photographers react to seeing color film?
It was great. I sold 2 pictures in color to an English magazine.
Because you had to be one of the first guys to experiment with color, right?
Yes, and then in '46, and I think later, when Eastman Kodak was making a lot of Kodachrome, we got Leicas in the PX, and we made 35 millimeter slides.
So you get this film back from London, and you open
At the
beginning.
beginning.
And you open up the envelope and you
Yep.
say, "My gosh, look at this!
Yeah.
This is unbelievable."
Yeah.
It's your contemporaries who are still stuck with black and white had to be envious.
Well, they could sell the black and white. Nobody was going to buy color then.
Oh, really?
Yeah, sure. Because color took a while to make in printing on a press. But in black and white, they could print it right away and get it out.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah. And we didn't have the speed of those days of sending pictures. We sent pictures from England to the Pentagon by radio. What is it called? Radiogram or something. Things were kind of slow then. Not like today. God. We've made some progress.
You sure have. Pick this up probably tomorrow sometime or Thursday.
It cost you more.
I know it. You got your attention today.